Hello my lovely friends, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you some of the latest of my winter junk journal pages in my winter junk journal. So you'd think that that would be a really easy thing to do, and it kind of was, but I have to say, a couple of things. I'm looking at this journal and I was like, holy cow, I have hardly worked in this at all. And today is February the 9th. And I was like, TikTok sister, you better move this thing along because soon it's going to be time to start doing some spring journaling. So I was like, I better hurry up and, So I had decided in my mind that what I was going to do was I was going to sort of go the old-fashioned route and actually use a lot of the junk in the ephemera that I have been collecting over the past little while. And I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to get out this basket of stuff and we're going to, it's going to be great. I'm going to glue in, I'm going to tape in. I was super excited because I thought I want to do something a little bit different than just going and printing out digitals and using digitals. And not that digitals are bad, but sometimes when I'm cleaning and I look around here and I think, I have a lot of stuff in here. I have a lot of ephemera and things that I've saved. And it seems on some level a little bit silly to be printing out digitals and using the digitals in here when I should be using the vast array of things that I have in the studio. So I got myself set up. I put my iPad up. I thought, I'm going to make a video for you guys. It's going to be great. We're going to have a great time. And almost immediately, I knew that this wasn't working. I was like, I am not feeling this. This isn't gelling. But I thought, no, let's push through it. You've got to use up the stuff that you have. It doesn't, I was trying to be very practical, I guess is the right word. And so I pulled out some happy mail that I'd had saved from my pen pals. And I love all the pieces that I have, but I wasn't loving how they were going together, if that makes sense. But I really struggled with this because I was like, this is supposed to be where I find calm and peace and tranquility and self-acceptance and all of that kind of thing. And I was kind of getting my knickers in a twist a little bit because I was like, I don't like this, why did I glue, anyways, I was like, okay, stop. So I turned off the camera and I took out the things that I'd glued onto the pages, the things that I'd taped down, and I was just like, I'm not feeling this, I want to use the digitals. But then I was like, I was very conflicted, which, I know it's just journaling. But anyways, I was trying to understand more about the process and trying to figure out what was going on, the conflict inside me. It really wasn't necessarily about the ephemera, but it was something that was going on within me. And I thought, okay, let's just try and figure out what's going on. Which, to be honest with you, I never did really figure it out, except that I was trying to pigeonhole myself into some sort of creative endeavor that I just wasn't feeling. And I think we've all been, in that position before where we think that we know what we want to do creatively, but the more we force something and the more we push something, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And then you're like, I am so not having fun, right? So that's kind of where I was with that. So I ended up printing out the digitals that I originally wanted to print out, and I went ahead and I had a great time, and I'm really, really happy with the pages that I created. But I have to admit, there is still this thing inside of me that wants to be very experimental with how I'm putting pages together, and yet at the same time there's a part of me that yearns for what I call in the video a sort of traditional way of junk journaling, where it's about gluing down everything in front of you so that you see everything as soon as you're turning the pages, that you write your little notes, sort of again, when I think of junk journaling, the sort of traditional idea that Johanna does in her YouTube videos, I always think I get her last name wrong. McClow. I love her journaling, and I love her approach to journaling, and I love how she has all of this mix and match and these colors and these textures, and yet when I do it, I don't feel like I get the same results, and I'm very hard on myself, and I'm like, oh, that's ugly. Like, you guys know I always say I hate my handwriting, and it's messy, and it's... So, I guess I'm just sharing this with you in the sense that, it's good to be... Certainly it's good to be aware of the sort of messages that we're telling ourselves during the process. And the process is supposed to be, again, the place that we go to for comfort, for relaxation. There shouldn't be this push-pull conflict within our creative process. And so, there's a million reasons why we would have these conflicts while we're doing the things that we love to do, in particular our hobby of junk journaling. But I just thought it was an interesting idea to explore, and the moment that I took the pressure off of myself and said, no, just go ahead and do what you really wanted to do in the first place, it was like, woohoo! Right, here we go, I'm having a great time. And the pages I think are great. I'm really happy with them, and I'm happy with the memory keeping that I did do within these pages. So, the moral of the story is, I don't know why we give ourselves a hard time sometimes about these things, but we do, and there's no right or wrong way to memory keep in your junk journal. And so I sort of, the deal that I made with myself was that I would go ahead and use the digitals and journal in the manner in which I really wanted to do that day. And then we'll go back and try the more traditional way of journaling again in the next few pages and see if I can find a better flow that way. And I think some of it just has to do with this certain amount of guilt or the uncomfortable feelings that we have about the stuff that we have in our studios and the things that we've collected, and then the things that we don't use, but we hang on to them because we think we're supposed to use them. And Kelly over at Root Pursuit, she put out a video this week about decluttering her craft space. I didn't get a chance to watch the video, but I've bookmarked it and I'm going to watch it over this weekend. But looks like she's getting ready to move. And so she's going through this whole process of looking at what she has. And, she's kind of like, I have a lot of stuff. And I think on some level, we all get to a point where we're, we sort of evaluate and reevaluate about what we have and why, which is a whole other video and a whole other topic that I do really want to talk about, and we'll make a video in the upcoming near future about that. But for today, really, my point was that, it's good to examine these feelings. It's good to question what we have and why we're hanging on to the junk that we're hanging on to. But at the same time, there shouldn't be any shame attached that if you want to work in a junk journal, but you don't want to use your junk, there's nothing wrong with that either. So, what I did was I did show you part of the video that I was making where I was trying to work with my junk, and I just put a small little clip it in with a voiceover about what I was trying to work and what I was working with and why, and then eventually when I gave up. And then we go into me showing you the finished pages. So, without any further ado, let's move on and get into the fun part, which is looking inside somebody else's journal. So give me a second and I'll be right back. I thought I would share with you the beginning of my process here. What I'm doing is I started making a video for you guys, and I was like, okay, so I'm going to start putting my junk in my junk journal. And so this is just sort of me flipping through things and looking, trying to decide what do I, like we always do, what do I have? What do I want to use? What do I want to put in? And I'm going through my so-called junk, and I'm like, okay, this will be kind of fun. Like, I'm going to do something totally different. And I should have known this fox postcard was the beginning was the beginning of the end, because I really wanted to make this work. And I thought, okay, we're going to do some tip outs, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I knew at this point, I was like, this isn't turning out the way I want it. I don't like these colors are clashing. I don't like the orange. I just don't like the mishmash of my junk. So this is when I really started to question, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? And I knew at this point it wasn't working. And so in the back of my mind, as much as I'm playing around with these things, I think we're just going to go back and get out the digitals and use those. So this is where I started. And after this, this tissue, I'm like, no, forget it. I turn off the camera, and then we go into where I start to show you the digitals and the pockets and everything that I did create in this journal. So enjoy. So I had a really great time with these 2 pages, and in the sense that I love to layer. You guys know that. I love putting things on top of things. This is part of my dilemma, is that I really enjoy the challenge of putting these different digitals together. So I really like the idea of having this really gorgeous little bird here with her crown in front of this dark winter forest scene, and then having the sort of full moon and the trees, and just a really great winter vibe in general. And then over here on this side, we have the princess with her bear. This just speaks to my inner child in a huge way, where I was like, I want my own polar bear. I want to have this beautiful royal coat, and I want to have my own polar bear and walk through the crunchy snow and all of that. So anyhow, I love her. And of course, you know, it's not a journal page for me without a candle on it. So what I did was, I decided that with this, I mean, look how cute. I love everything about this. Like the beautiful face and the crown and the softness of the feathers. I just love this. But anyways, I decided that I had been collecting... Sophie, what are you doing? I had been collecting a bunch of quotes about winter, and so I thought it would be really just... This seemed like the perfect space in here to put these quotes. And this one I love. Winter reminds us that everyone and everything needs some quiet time. And I have to say, that is one of the things that I love the most about winter, is that it is incredibly quiet and peaceful, and just there's a serenity to winter, at least where I live, that it's unlike any other time. So because I wanted these trees to be almost the full height of the page, I added this blank space at the bottom. I will put something down here, but I just hadn't gotten around to it yet. But on the back, I put some images of hibernation that I absolutely enjoy. And you see, this was part of where I was feeling this sort of dilemma creep up, right? Where I was like, okay, I really like these images, and I want to enjoy these images in my journal. But at the same time, I really like the idea that I can do this and create these sorts of images, right? So this was the conflict and the push-pull between, what is it that I'm doing? Am I creating and using digitals, or am I preserving the things that really speak to me, and the images that I really enjoy for this time of the year, right? I mean, you know, in hindsight, I could have just printed the digitals off, created the tags in the pockets, and not put anything on the back. But then, I don't know, that seems sort of silly to me. because these certainly speak to a place and time for me in January, you know. Anyhow, these are the things, my friends, that rattle around in my brain, which can some days feel kind of exhausting, I have to say. But anyways, onwards we go. So then I love, of course, the tree and the numbers. You guys know how much I love numbers. And then on the back, I put this really cute image of Lucy from actually just the other day. And then warm and cozy, which is exactly what she is. And then this made me giggle. I love winter. The bugs are dead and the people are indoors. And I was like, oh, amen to that, sister. I'm with you. And then here, underneath the candle, I left myself a sort of what I kind of like to call little Easter egg quotes. And these are just little quotes that, things that I've cut out, again, that directly speak to where I am and what I'm kind of thinking about, or what I'm struggling with, or what I'm going through at the particular time when I was collecting all this stuff to create these journal pages. And I love this here. 2 things make life easier: having a good relationship with your tuition and not being afraid of change. And so while I know there are bigger problems in the world than how do I decorate or work in or play with or enjoy my junk journal, I also was trying to deal with change, because my go-to with change is to, sadly, and just between you and me, I'm not great with change, right? And most of us don't like a lot of change. But the thing was, there was a voice that was very clearly saying, this isn't working, you need to do something differently because the status quo has got to change, right? And so part of my working theory in general is, if I can lean into change, if I can sort of be more curious about change and adapt to change in the very easy, comfy, very safe areas of my life, then I have a better chance of leaning into change that is much more difficult, much more uncomfortable, much more antagonistic, in the sense that sometimes I feel like we need practice when we're dealing with change, right? So the more you do something over and over again, the easier, technically, it should become. So this was sort of my theory, is that none of us like change, for the most part. I mean, the change that we can control is great. So you're like, I want a new pair of shoes. So you're like, that's really good change. The kind of change where you go to the store and you're like, look, I'm now wearing new shoes, and that kind of change feels great because I'm totally in control. And I was able to work with all the details in the way that I wanted to. And so you go on about your day with your new shoes and the changes that you made, and they feel great. But then when the change comes along that we don't have control over, or that we're very uncomfortable with, if I'm able to deal with change, how do I say this? I hope this is making sense. If I'm able to deal with change that I can control and lean into it and go with the flow, then I can take those things and apply them to when change comes along and it's completely out of my control. That's my working theory, right? So that's why this quote was so good. I mean, I'm always trying to listen to my intuition, and it's not that I'm afraid of change, it's just that change can be annoying, right? But it's important to make friends with change and to not necessarily overthink changes. And this is such a great place to work through some of these things, right? We can do it artistically, we can do it in our own time, in our own space, and in our own way. And that's why I also put here, self-care is how you take your power back. Because I think the other thing with change depending on the change, there is a power struggle with change, right? You're like, I'm not doing that. I don't like that, you know, whether it could be anything, but change can really make us struggle with feeling powerless, if you know what I mean. And then I can and I will, which is applicable to so many things in life, right? So that's the first one. And then I was really like, I was in the mood to work with really large, as you can see, really large sort of fussy cuts. And so this just is everything to me about Winter. I love her. I love her beautiful face with these big brown eyes and the shiny, shiny little nose here. This gorgeous collar and her crown. Oh my God, everything about this is just... So then I put some stuff on the back. And again, this was another point in which I was thinking, these are things that are just sort of day-to-day things that popped up for me where, again, it really marked a moment in time for me. So I found this quote, and it was, "Winter sunlight is a warm old soul spreading love in the bitter cold." And I was just like, oh, you can feel the way that sounds or the way that reads, right? Winter sunlight is a warm old soul. And you just feel that. You know, the moment you go outside in the wintertime and it's minus whatever, and then you step into the sun and it's so amazing to feel that sunshine for a million different reasons, but that heat from the sun, and you're like, oh, it almost feels like it's the first time you've ever felt the sun. It's just so amazing, right? And so that spoke to me. And then down here, I found this somewhere. I don't remember where, but she wrote, "You made it through the 10 darkest weeks of the year. So from November the 16th through the solstice to January the 22nd. And even though I'm a huge fan of the dark nights of winter, again, this really spoke to me. And then here is my very sad African violet. And I don't know what happened to her. I accidentally overwatered her, which I'm not sure how it happened because I'm very meticulous about these. I have a bunch of African violets, and she would flower and bloom a lot. And so finally, she had these sad, droopy leaves. I took her out of that's when I realized that her dirt was soaking wet. Anyways, I repotted her. I gave her brand new dry dirt. This was on January the 17th. She still looks like this, so I'm hoping that she pulls out of it, but I don't know. But anyway, so that's what's on the back of that. And this, again, I was like, these are really great images that I remember exactly where I was and how I felt when I read this, and what was going on with this. So again, this was a sort of conflict for me was, do I want to hide these things in behind, or do I want to see them as I'm flipping through the pages of a junk journal, which would be the more traditional way of doing it, right? But having said that, I really did have a lot of fun playing around and putting the blues together, and then sort of having this look of the big giant snowflakes behind this blue winter forest, and then this beautiful creature with her crown standing in front of this forest, and then sort of overseeing the sort of winter kingdom. That was sort of where I was going in my brain, right? So then here, I put "be still," because look, I mean, this is just, oops, you can hear the silence, I think, if that makes sense, you know? And then on the back here is an image. My friend Emma had sent me this photo, And this was one of the books that she was reading. And so I wanted to save it. I didn't get a chance to look at it yet or Google it, but it's on my list to look at before the winter's over. And then I just dated the day that she sent me the photo. So that's that. So this lantern, at one point I had cut this out all the way around, but then I couldn't get it to tape in, so I had to reprint it and then keep the one side straight so then it would fit nicely there. And then on the back, I haven't printed out the information, but I saw this image of this church in Italy, and I think it's somewhere near Naples. And there's a what looks like a coffin here. I don't know if there's anybody inside of it. It's called the Veiled Christ. But I love all things Italian, but what really captured me about this image, and this is apparently a very, very tiny, tiny church, and it's filled with these absolutely incredibly sculpted and carved marble statues that will just blow your mind as far as the detail in them goes, right? And so what captured my attention very quickly with this image was that the person who posted it on Twitter said, details matter. And just when, something along the lines of, just when you think nobody would really pay attention to the details that matter to you, is when you need to know that the details that you put into your work are really important. I'm paraphrasing, but that was essentially what the commentary was about this incredible display here in this church. And so that, again, that really spoke to me in the sense that I was like, sometimes I'm like, you don't need to worry about that detail. You don't need to worry about that. Do people really notice? Do people really pay attention? And this one, I was sort of getting ready to do the cat journals. And I was like, no, the details do matter. There is something to be said in this day and age of instant messaging, instant delivery, instant communication, instant, that it is worthwhile. It is still worthwhile to put the time and energy into details, because the best products out there, the things that we love the most, often do incorporate a lot of detail in them. So that's why that's there. Then we have this incredible owl here, and as you guys know, owls remind me of my grandmother. So I try and incorporate owls as much as I can. But again, this crown and these feathers and these eyes, I was just like, ooh. This beautiful snowy owl, this regal snowy owl. And I liked having her, tucked up against this midnight sky full of stars. And you can hear the silence. This absolute silence in this dead of night in this forest. Sometimes I know my imagination gets a little bit crazy. But anyway, so on the back of her, so this might seem a little bit strange, but this came through a feed. And again, it was just one of those weird moments in time. It was very, very poignant to me. And I'm a huge Phil Collins fan. So by the way, this is Phil Collins. And obviously they've got him here in 1965 as a young man, and then this is from 2023. He's been quite ill lately, but this stopped me dead in my tracks for some reason, and it was just this message in my brain that was like, don't wait too long, don't leave it too long, things move quickly. And it really just spoke to me that I'm always thinking, later. I'll do this later. And it's the same time when people say, use your good towels today. Don't wait for a special occasion, right? Life is the special occasion. And so I printed this out, and I wanted to put this in here because it just was, I thought, a really good reminder of, you know, life is short, time flies by. One day you're 20 and you're going out with your friends in your mini skirts and you're having a good time, and the next thing you know, you're in your 50s making junk journal videos on a Friday night. Like, you know what I mean? So anyway, so I really wanted to incorporate there, just as a little, again, a little reminder when I flip through this. Enjoy and don't put things off too far. Do what you can now, right? And then this says detox your entire life. That was Lucy. Anyhow, detox your entire life. Clean your body, mind, and soul. Your house, your car, your phone. Get everything into alignment. And these two, for me, just really worked well together. And it is a good reminder. Like, sometimes you just gotta get rid of some clutter. Whether it's in your brain or the garbage, whatever it is, right? And again, you know, an owl is a representation of wisdom. And I thought that these fit nicely behind her. Because these are really, you know, these are really wise words, quote unquote. So she goes there, and then here was just a fun little tag, and with another little Easter egg that says, the soul has been given its own ears to hear things the mind doesn't understand. And I was like, ooh, that's going in. So that just gets tucked up in there, and with the owl. And then here, on this side, we've got this lovely window opening up into the sky that is full of winter hares, which I absolutely love, love, love. And then I just got a little tag. I'm still going to put something underneath here, but for now, all I got here was, the light of winter is the poetry of patience. And again, I was like, ooh, that's good. That's good. And then another one here. Congratulations to everyone who moved on without the genuine apology or closure you deserved. That's not easy. And that speaks, that's so huge for me because of some relationship stuff that I've had to deal with in the past few years. And I was like, that's just epic. So that goes there in behind the window. And then again, you guys know that I love to put candles in my journals. And then, I don't know if you guys remember Kathy Bates in Fried Green Tomatoes, one of my favorite movies. And she has this whole scene where she does this, smashes into these cars into a parking lot. Anyway, she has this whole thing with Tawanda, and it's one of my favorite scenes of all time in a movie. And I hadn't thought about this for a long time, but a couple weeks ago I was driving around and something was really bothering me, and I was thinking about this thing and it was kind of stressing me out. But it was bothering me that it was stressing me out. And out of nowhere, I just heard this voice. I heard Kathy Bates' voice that was like, Tawanda. And I was like, oh my God, I haven't thought about Tawanda in forever. But the moment I said it, I just felt better. I was like, yeah, Tawanda. So anyways, I just wrote underneath here, don't be afraid. You are stronger than you think. And again, this was just a fleeting moment, a passing, sort of as I was waiting in traffic and I was obsessing about something that I probably shouldn't have been obsessing about. But Tawanda really made me feel better, and I thought, okay, that needs a spot in the journal because there's a lot of significance to that on many levels. And it reminded me that I should go back and rewatch that movie because it was so good. And then again, another little Easter egg here. Sometimes your only available transportation is a leap of faith. And this, again, this sort of connected to my thinking about change and adapting to change and accepting change in our lives, right? So then I took 2 images and glued these together to create a little pocket here. And this was the box top. My friend Emma, the girl who had showed me the book that she was reading, she'd sent me these candles last year for Christmas. And I had saved the front of the box because it's absolutely gorgeous. And it still kind of smells a little bit like the candles did. So finally, I was like, okay, I get to include this in a winter journal. And I put this image on the back. When I saw this, I was like, oh, I love that idea. You know, this sort of, I was like, I'm going to put my little tinfoil hat on when it comes to the pyramids and what could be underneath. I mean, look at that. I mean, oh my God. I've loved learning about the pyramids since I was a little kid, and this just lit me up like a Christmas tree. I was like, just imagine. If it goes all the way down. Anyways, I couldn't resist. So that had to go in, because I found this at some point in January, right? So I was like, oh, tuck that in there, because you never know. And then on this side, in winter, I plot and plan. In spring, I move. Henry Rollins, which I thought was another great winter quote. And then here we have our lovely gal. And then underneath her, we've got this sheet here. Winter is the time for comfort, for good food and warmth, for the touch of a friendly hand, and for a talk beside the fire. It is the time for home. I'm like, yes, it is. And then this, again, this really spoke to me. The longest journey most of us have to take is from the heart, from the head to the heart. And I was like, oh, I feel that. You know, again, thinking about change, my approach to change, all that kind of thing. And then on the back here, I took a photo of, because we've had quite a bit of rain in the last couple of days, and it's melted what snow we had. And so then I was like, oh, look at all the little snowdrops that I have poking their little heads up there. Oh, I took this today. That's right. I went out this afternoon. And then I found this amazing quote. Spring is when you feel like whistling, even with a shoe full of slush. And it had the snowdrops in behind the text there. So I was like, oh, these two go great together. And then I found this card, this photo that I had taken amongst a bunch of other things. This is from last year when we did have a lot more snow. And then on the back, this is the book that I'm currently reading, The Last Good Day. I found it at the Goodwill, and it had some really good reviews on Goodreads. So I thought it would be fun to just put a photo in there of what I'm currently reading. And then I just love this tag because it's blue, and this just has a really cute illustration of some hibernation, which I thought would be nice just tucked in underneath there. And then, so, my two favorite things, hares and moons on this side. And then, I just think she is adorable. I have to admit, I'm not super crazy about the hat or the muff, but I just think she is super sweet, and she looks super cute in her little winter outfit there. And so then I've got this really nice image here. A snowflake is winter's butterfly. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. And then on the back here, trust your hunches. They're usually based on facts, filed away just below the conscious level. Dr. Joyce Brothers. And then that was for February 1st. And yeah, just sort of, spring is coming, spring is coming. Whether it feels like it in certain spots or not, it definitely is coming. And then, of course, I couldn't resist putting quiet there because that's one of my favorite things, as we've already discussed about winter. And then, so I don't think I talked about this yet. One of my friend Emma, again, we got talking about Edgar Allan Poe. And we talked about how we both loved Poe. We loved the images of Poe and that sort of whole dark academia vibe of Poe. But I confessed to her that I had really never read much Poe. And she was like, me either. So she had just watched Pale Blue Eyes on Netflix. So she was like, you have to watch this, especially because we've just been talking about Edgar Allan Poe. Because of this sort of, I ended up going down a bit of an Edgar Allan Poe rabbit hole, and I came across the poem Annabel Lee, which I knew nothing about. Oh, there, I put the thumbnail of the show, the series, The Pale Blue Eye, that I watched the last week of January. And so I had Googled this poem, and it came up on YouTube, and I didn't realize that there's all of these YouTube videos of people reading poetry. And I don't know why it never occurred to me, because now that I've seen it, it seems like the most natural thing in the world. But I had a really great time listening to people read the poems of Edgar Allan Poe. So again, because this was sort of a theme that was running through parts of January, I wanted to include the poem Annabel Lee, and of course, to remember that this whole thing got sparked by Emma telling me to watch this Netflix series. So that gets tucked in there. And then underneath the hair, I found this quote: "Winter knows to hush, still, listen, so the soul can speak." And I was like, oh. Yes, it does. So that gets tucked in there. And then, again, sticking sort of with my Edgar Allan Poe theme, I found this quote in this image. "All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream." And this imagery of the universe and the sky and this little child looking out the window at sort of infinite possibilities, really just, again, I was just like, oh. This is sort of speaks to my creativity and how our creative abilities are truly endless. We just have to give them the time and the space and the room that they need, and to explore creative options, and again, not really be afraid of changing things up, right? So I thought that was perfect to go in behind the moon. So that got tucked up in there. And then these are the last two, and I didn't do anything with these. These are all empty on the back because I have to be honest, I ran out of steam a little bit as far as filling in the blanks. Like, I loved putting these together, and I'm like, ooh, I like how the little flowers poke up in this pocket, and the tree, and the thing, and the thing, and the tail of the strings, but I just didn't have anything else to put in there for now. So I'll get back to that later. This side, I think I did a couple things here. Let's see, on this one, oh, yes. I've mastered the art of bouncing back. And then we've got, again, another hair, a winter hair. Oh, yeah. I was listening to an interview with this woman, and she got talking about the pine cone in front of the Vatican. And sadly, when Milos and I went to Rome a few years ago, we didn't have time. I mean, oh my God, Rome. You need a month to do everything. So I had to pick something. So when we were there in 2018, I picked the Colosseum. And that blew my mind. I was like, that's enough for one trip. But anyways, I didn't know about this pine cone in between the two peacocks at the Vatican. So this was news to me, and listening to this woman talk about the symbolism and everything that went to the pine cone was really, really eye-opening and super interesting. And I am definitely going down this rabbit hole later on this month. But again, I wanted to include this. I'll date when I listened to that interview, because I was like, ooh, mind blown. Right? And then this, I didn't do anything with this here. I just left that. So, my friends, that is the walkthrough or the flip through of what the journal pages that I did eventually do, and how I sort of, eventually kind of quote unquote made peace with these two conflicting ideas about what I wanted to do in this journal. So on the one hand, I really just wanted to work with the digitals, to have fun, where I was, here we go, layering. I can never say layering. It sounds like I'm saying larrying. Layering? Anyways, this sort of idea that I really do enjoy these bigger fussy cuts, and I love mix and matching in the colors, and sort of thinking about what goes where, and the connection between what I'm because I wanted to have this forest scene sort of with this full moon up in the sky with the hair kind of looking up at the moon. Like, I love this lights me up like crazy. Having her smiling at me while I'm tucking things in behind, it's so much fun. But I really was conflicted with, these sorts of things that I want to remind myself of when I'm coming back through and looking through these things. Hidden, not hidden, hidden, not hidden. So there's room for both, certainly. I just have to find that balance within myself. And so the next few pages that I'm going to do are going to be the opposite of these. I will go back to a more traditional way of junk journaling, where I am putting the things that I'm cutting out and wanting to save, basically, for lack of a better term, on full display, right? So I think it'll be kind of fun. It'll be an interesting challenge for me to go back and forth and experiment, and I don't know, just see what I come up with. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I certainly hope that it will inspire you to continue. We still have some weeks to go of winter, so maybe it will inspire you to have some fun with the winter digitals that you already have, and some of the winter imagery that you have, and yeah, just, taking some of these things and turning them into, like I said, leaving little Easter eggs for yourself. Because so many times we do the memory keeping, and we think we're going to remember everything. At least I do. And then inevitably I don't, and I forget. And so I really do enjoy it when I come back to these sorts of things, and I just look at and I go, oh yeah, now I remember why it was important for me to put that in here. And I think what I will do tomorrow, I will go in with some of these little Easter egg quotes that I've left for myself, and I might just make a couple little notes to really spark that memory when I come back. So that's it. That's it. So thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, it would be really super helpful to me if you could give it a little thumbs up. If you have any questions or anything that you would want me to clarify, please leave them in the comments section below. And I think that's going to be it for today. So, you know what I always say, speak kindly to yourselves, enjoy the journal process, and until the next journal flip through, take care everybody, mwah, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.